What's the meaning of life?
We will hear what I think is Naval's most beautiful answer later in the video. But first, he shares the two levels at which you can even answer this question.
All of these great questions have paradoxical answers. And that's one of the ways that you know you're dealing with one of the great questions. And it turns out, think it through, the reason, when you see these paradoxes, often what you'll find is that the question is being asked, what is the meaning of life? But then it's being answered at two different levels. And one level is a level of the individual separate self, which says, oh, the meaning is just what I ascribe to it. And then sometimes you answer it, there's a sleight of hand, and you answer at the level of the universal self, where you say, well, of course, the meaning is the universe, or the meaning is life itself.
So Naval is saying that we can try to answer the big questions of life from two levels. The level of the individual separate self, this me, and the level of the universal self, which is not separate. Now listen to the following clip, because this made it so much more clear for me.
So the paradoxical answers come from, do you choose to adopt the viewpoint of yourself as a separate person, or do you take the viewpoint of your spiritual self? And we jump between those contradictions very loosely without paying attention. And we end up with these paradoxical answers, and we think the question is not solvable. But that's not entirely true. It is solvable. It's just, which level are you speaking from?
To me, this is very insightful. Because I always ran into the problem of like, hey, this sounds true, but then that can't be true. Like both can't make sense. For instance, like it makes sense that I ascribe meaning to life on my personal level, but then at the same time, because we are all going to die, then it doesn't make sense that life has meaning. Anyways, here's Naval.
I could say, no, life is meaningless. You arrive with nothing, you die, nothing survives you, you don't remember anything. As far as you're concerned, the moment you close your eyes that last time, the entire universe disappears. It's like a dream that never happened. Poof, no meaning, okay? On the other hand, I could say, actually, life has infinite meaning. Every moment is connected to every other moment. You can see the only thing that actually exists, you can ascribe complete and utter meaning to it, right?
But then does this mean that we will never find an answer to the question? How did we came to be?
The best way I would summarize my thinking on this is that I think existence itself is a miracle. The oldest questions are, why is there something instead of nothing? Why are we here? What's the meaning of life? These are all just variants in the same question. And there is no answer to that. Does that mean there can never be an answer to that? No, not necessarily. But if you start going down that road, you'll find all kinds of contradictions.
There is no answer yet. Later in the video, Naval talks about how we might get to the answer. But first, what is one of those paradoxes?
For example, with just the meaning of life, right? If there was a single meaning of life, then we would all be slaves to it. Suppose the meaning of life was to help others, and we'd all be running around trying to help others. And, there'd be no room for the individual. If the meaning of life was to, be strong and fit and healthy, then we'd all be working out. I don't know how beer and biceps go together, but, we'd all be building our biceps. So it's better that there is no overarching singular meaning of life. It's better that there are personal interpretations.
We ascribe meaning. But then does this mean that we all have different meanings of life?
However, within those personal interpretations, we all have, even though we have complete freedom to choose any meaning that we want, and we can create our own meaning in any moment, there are certain common things in what we all want. And so that's kind of the paradox of being a human individual, where you're completely an individual, but you're also completely interlinked to everything and anything that exists.
Now, if you don't fully understand this thing called awareness yet, then listen closely.
Another question you ask is, am I alone? And yeah, of course, you're completely alone. No one else knows your thoughts, your single point of awareness. Nobody else can have that same point of awareness, and any 2 points are infinitely different in space. On the other hand, you could say, no, of course you're not alone. The entire universe had to conspire to bring you here at this moment. It's all part of collisions from the Big Bang till now, and then poof, here you are. And how can you, and everything that you do is a function of your environment and your genes, neither of which you selected. So you're not alone, you're part of everything. You're an indispensable part of everything.
So as much as I am, probably you too, like to be different, maybe we're not.
We're all always growing up, right? We're all always on this journey of self-discovery, the single-player game where we're alone inside, but yet we're deeply interconnected because we're all having the same thoughts, the same emotions, the same experiences, with maybe different interpretations, often the same interpretations.
Often the same understanding. This is why Naval said the following.
I sort of reject this idea that I'm wiser or more advanced. I don't think that's
Really?
true. No, if I was wise, I'd be a Buddha. I'm not. So it's like, two ants debating, like, who's smarter, and there's like a human walking around over there, right? What does it matter?
The only wise person is a Buddha. Now, I never heard the following before this precisely, but after I heard it, it just makes so much sense.
A Buddha, not the Buddha, but a Buddha, any enlightened person, they don't have any sense of persistent, separate self. And so they're always answering at the universal level. And in that sense, they're freed of contradictions. And I think the reason we admire those people is because we ourselves want to be freed of this internal contradiction.
We admire enlightened people like the Buddha because they are free from contradictions, because they only have one level left to look from, which is the universal one. And perhaps that's why enlightenment is the most important, if not the only thing that really matters in life. Or how I like to say it, freedom from the contradiction of a separate self may be the key of keys in life. Now, if you want to know more truths that I found in my own life, well, I write about them in a weekly 2-minute email that you automatically receive if you download this free Google Sheet with 80 plus free tools that I use in my business and personal life, all unsponsored and unaffiliated, without sales stuff, just truth. And now back to Naval and his quote from Niels Bohr, who is a Danish physicist.
In every human, there is a sense that something infinite has been lost.
Wow. Now, if you wonder what Naval means with the word awareness, then listen closely.
If I think about kind of what's going on here, right, I can't prove it. So at the end of the day, you should figure it out for yourself. But I think what's going on here is that there is a universal self, which is just raw awareness. And that's all there is. Everything in your experience is awareness.
And that brings us to the most beautiful answer to the question, what is the meaning of life?
The meaning of life, the way I think of it is that existence itself is a miracle and everything else is science. And I think that's the best of all possible worlds. So spirituality is the side that lies on who am I? Why am I here? How long have I got? What am I here for? And these are questions that are really only answerable at a personal level. This miraculous little world that we're in is beautifully put together. I couldn't do a better job, for sure. I couldn't even begin to do the job. And just to give you some ideas as to, just some observations how well it's put together, the fact that science works, that's magic. Technology works, that is magic. You go back and you read books on magic or magicians or fantasy books, they don't have 100 of the power that we have. They don't have self-driving cars, they don't have smartphones, they don't have antibiotics, they don't have rockets, they don't even have fantasy novels, they don't even have clean running water. They don't have reliable food, they don't have food delivery services, right? So we are already living in an age of miracles that the best part is we can control. And the magic spells that we cast are under the auspices of science. The wizardry that we create is through technology. And that's all manipulable through laws and rules and systems that we discover and we create. And that is incredible. We're all magicians. I couldn't ask for a better system.
Existence is magic, yet we are all magicians. But also think about this.
Be very particular about what you take in. Make sure you truly understand it and that it is true. Truth is the most important thing. What matters is truth, not who says what or where you lived or what book you read. What just matters is what's true.
But what is the truth?
There are things that have a greater truth composition than others. You just have to get away from this binary thinking of true and false. So there are things that are more true and there are things that are less true.
Truth density. Naval actually shares the 4 ways to find out what is true and the biggest mistake to avoid in life in this video. Talk soon.